She has shaken more than 20,000 hands, cut 1,000 ribbons, and stood in the rain at events most people have never heard of. She rarely gives interviews. She almost never complains. And yet, inside the walls of Buckingham Palace, there is a quiet understanding that when everything else feels uncertain, one person can always be counted on. That person is not a king or a future king. It is the king's own sister. Her name is Anne. Born on the 15th of August 1950, she was the second child and only daughter of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. She was the second child and only daughter of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. Her older brother was Charles, the boy who would one day wear the crown. From the very beginning, Anne lived one step to the side of the spotlight, and over time she learned to make that quiet space her own. Encyclopedia Britannica. In 1987, her mother gave her a rare honor. In June 1987, Anne was created the Princess Royal, a title traditionally carried by the British monarch's oldest daughter and held for life. There can only ever be one Princess Royal at a time, and the title cannot be inherited or passed down. It is given only by the sovereign, and only to a daughter the crown wishes to honor. Anne became just the seventh woman in history to hold it. Encyclopedia Britannica. But titles were never what defined her. What defined her was work. Year after year, while headlines chased other royals, Anne simply kept showing up. In 2022, she carried out more official engagements than any other member of the royal family, appearing at 214 separate events. In 2022, she undertook the most royal engagements, 214. Charities, hospitals, military units, small community groups in forgotten towns. She went to all of them, often without a single camera in sight. Encyclopedia Britannica. Royal watchers have a name for her. They call her the hardest-working royal, the reliable one, the engine that keeps turning when the machine is under strain. As of 2026, she sits 18th in line to the throne, far from ever ruling. She is 18th in line as of 2026. And yet her real power has nothing to do with her place in that line. To understand why, you first have to understand where she came from, and the moment that proved exactly what she was made of. Wikipedia. Long before she became the woman the palace leans on, Anne was known for something else entirely, her nerve. As a young woman she fell in love with horses, and she was good, world-class good. She won a gold medal at the European Eventing Championships in 1971, and 2 silver medals in 1975. She won 1 gold medal at the 1971 and 2 silver medals at the 1975 European Eventing Championships. Then she did something no royal had done before. In 1976, she became the first member of the British royal family to compete in the Olympic Games. Years later, that lifelong love of sport earned her a seat on the International Olympic Committee, a role she has held since 1988. Wikipedia. But the moment that truly revealed her character came in March 1974, and it had nothing to do with medals. As she rode in a car through the streets of London, a gunman attacked the vehicle in an attempted kidnapping, wounding people around her. In March 1974, Anne was nearly kidnapped when a mentally disturbed gunman attacked the car in which she was riding, wounding her bodyguard. According to the accounts that followed, Anne refused to be dragged from the car and stayed calm through the chaos. It became one of the most famous stories about her, not because she was a victim, but because she would not be moved. Encyclopedia Britannica. Her private life carried the same quiet independence. In 1973, she married Captain Mark Phillips, a fellow horseman. She married Capt. Mark Phillips, an Army officer whom she married on November 14, 1973 in Westminster Abbey. They had 2 children, Peter and Zara. And here Anne made a choice that told the world a great deal about her values. Phillips was a commoner and never took a title of nobility, with the result that his and Anne's 2 children were called simply Peter and Zara Phillips. Her children would grow up without prince or princess attached to their names, free to build ordinary lives. Encyclopedia Britannica. Encyclopedia Britannica. That first marriage ended in divorce in 1992, and later the same year she married Commander Timothy Lawrence, a naval officer who had once served as an aide to the Queen. Anne obtained a divorce from Phillips in April 1992, and in December of the same year she married Commodore Timothy Lawrence. He stayed largely out of the public eye, steady and unbothered by attention, much like Anne herself. Encyclopedia Britannica. Through all of it, one thread never broke: her sense of duty. Since 1970, she has been president of Save the Children, one of many causes she has championed for decades. Anne has lent her support to various charities, most notably as president of Save the Children UK since 1970. She was never trying to be liked. She was trying to be useful. And when her brother finally became king, that usefulness would suddenly matter more than ever. Encyclopedia Britannica. When Charles became king in September 2022, he inherited a monarchy that was smaller, older, and more exposed than it had been in generations. Some family members had stepped away from royal life. Others had left the country entirely. Charles needed people he could rely on completely, and almost immediately he turned to his sister. Within weeks of taking the throne, the king asked Parliament to change the law. He wanted Anne, along with their brother Edward, to be able to act as counselors of state. On the 14th of November 2022, a message signed by the king's own hand was read aloud in the House of Lords. On Monday, a message from the king, signed by his own hand, requesting that Anne and Edward be made counselors of state was read in the House of Lords. The request moved quickly through Parliament and became law before the year was out. A bill was introduced in Parliament, and it received royal assent on 6 December, coming into force on 7 December as the Councillors of State Act 2022. BuzzFeed News Wikipedia. To understand why this mattered, you have to understand what a Councillor of State actually is. When the king cannot perform his duties for a short time, because of illness or travel abroad, 2 or more senior royals can be appointed to stand in for him. 2 or more councillors of state are appointed by letters patent to act in His Majesty's place. By law, these stand-ins are normally the king's spouse and the next 4 adults in line to the throne. By law, councillors of state include the sovereign's spouse and the next 4 people in the line of succession who are over the age of 21. The problem was that some of those people no longer worked as royals. So the king acted to make sure trusted, active family members like Anne could step in when needed. Royal family, royal family. That single decision said everything. Of all the people Charles could lean on, his sister was near the top of the list. Behind the scenes, royal experts have described her as the king's right-hand woman, a central part of the machinery that keeps the monarchy standing. Their bond runs deep and is surprisingly warm. Just under 2 years apart in age, Charles and Anne grew up together while their parents traveled the world. In a 2023 BBC documentary about the coronation year, cameras caught a rare private moment. Anne greeting her brother, the King of England, with an affectionate old nickname, "Hello, Old Bean." She could be heard greeting him by saying, "Hello, Old Bean," much to the delight of King Charles. He laughed and kissed her hand. Woman and home. It was a small moment, but it captured the truth. To the world, he is His Majesty. To Anne, he is simply her big brother, and she is the sister he trusts to help hold it all together. Which brings us to the question that keeps returning, especially in worried times. In early 2024, Buckingham Palace shared news that shook the country. The king had cancer. As his treatment stretched on through the following year, an old question resurfaced in every newspaper and every comment section. What happens if the king becomes too ill to rule? And every so often, a dramatic rumor catches fire online, claiming Charles has secretly handed his sister sweeping power under some grand new title. The truth is more interesting, and far more important to get right. First, the plain fact. There is no such thing as a Princess Royal Regent. It is not a real title, and no such role has been created. The stories claiming otherwise come from content farms and social media videos, not from the palace. Understanding why reveals how the monarchy truly works. A counselor of state, the role Anne can already perform, is powerful but deliberately limited. Such stand-ins can attend Privy Council meetings, sign routine papers, and receive new ambassadors. Councillors of state would be allowed to carry out his official tasks, such as meeting with the Privy Council, receiving new ambassadors, and signing official documents. But the law holds them back from the crown's deepest powers. By law, councillors of state cannot grant ranks, titles, or peerages. They cannot dissolve parliament or appoint a prime minister. In other words, even at her most trusted, Anne cannot be handed the keys to the kingdom, and neither can anyone else in that role. Yahoo, Wikipedia. A full regency is something else entirely and far rarer. It only happens if a monarch is declared permanently unable to rule. In that case, power passes not sideways to a favorite sibling, but strictly down the line of succession. If Charles were to become ill beyond returning to his duties, a declaration of incapacity would be made, and William would become regent. The heir, Prince William, would step forward, and even he would first have to swear a solemn oath before the Privy Council. Britain has not needed a regency in more than 200 years. A regency has not been required in the UK in more than 200 years. Parliament. So why do the rumors about Anne keep spreading? Because they contain a grain of emotional truth dressed up as fact. People sense correctly that Anne is the one Charles depends on. They see a steady, dutiful woman standing beside a brother facing illness, and they invent a crown to match her quiet strength. The invented titles are false. The trust behind them is real. That is Anne's true role. Not a hidden ruler, not a secret regent, but the reliable heart of a family under pressure. She holds no extra crown and seeks none. She simply keeps showing up in the rain without applause, doing the work. And in a monarchy always bracing for the next storm, that quiet steadiness may be the most powerful thing of all.